Hi there, it's David, and maybe you can see me a little bit better now. My laptop camera is not fine-grained, but that's okay. And I just recorded a 10-minute video, and the sound was going into the laptop microphone and not the one that I'm holding. Would you believe I spent 12 years in radio and TV broadcasting as an engineer and as talent, and I can't even get this working properly? It's been an interesting struggle. Anyway, a couple things I want to say. One is about clothing. I got a number of hits, people watching the video about clothing. I am not dressed the way I normally am when I'm out busking. I normally have a top hat. But the thing was, this Niles cap is interesting in a lot of ways. For one thing, the city of Fremont, where I am currently busking, is a city of almost 300,000 people with a amalgam of 5 different communities: Warm Springs, Mission San Jose, Centerville, Irvington, and Niles. Niles is where Charlie Chaplin did his little tramp character, and if you've ever seen him walking down the road to face another day, that was filmed about 2 miles from where I am right now. It was a very important stepping stone in the history of cinema. So people think very fondly of Niles. And when I'm in Niles performing, people don't think I am from Niles. I figured I just got it at a tourist shop. However, I've been in Centerville, about 2 miles, maybe 3 miles from Niles, and people say, "Oh, you're from Niles," and they get all excited about it. It's only been a couple days I've been doing the Niles cap, because I normally, as I said, wear a top hat. And that's something about engagement. People like to be engaged, or at least most people do. So I rely on hooks. If I can see something that somebody is wearing that I can ask about or have some sort of connection to, then I try to take advantage of it, because it helps open them up. And in this day and age, believe it or not, with internet, a lot of people are lonely, and that is an important function that we buskers provide to people. On another video, I will be mentioning about the whole busking scene in the Bay Area and what has changed over the years. But in the meanwhile, engaging people. There was a situation, actually it wasn't busking, but it was in a bar. I was in a bar and I saw this woman who was very lonely. Or she looked lonely. She looked like she didn't really want to be there, but she was there in San Francisco for a convention apparently, and she just wanted to spend a night out somewhere. And I was at this karaoke bar, because I sing karaoke, and I wanted to find a hook somewhere. I noticed she was wearing a pendant made of turquoise and silver. Now, the one community that's very, very big on turquoise and silver is Santa Fe, New Mexico. I happen to have an ex-boyfriend there. I happen to have various friends who live there. And so I know about the Indian market and the turquoise and silver and all that. So immediately I said, "Oh, you have a lovely pendant that you're wearing. Have you ever been to Santa Fe, New Mexico?" And she said, "Yes." And she started talking, and she brightened up immediately. She felt really, really good that somebody was engaging her in conversation. And it turned out that she knew my ex-boyfriend. But aside from all that, I think it's important to engage. The other day, I was at a spot in front of a store where I normally busk, and this guy couldn't have been more than about 20, 22 years old, comes by wearing a T-shirt that says Jackson Street Off Ramp. Now that is a band that never made it in the 1960s, and only historians such as I would even know that that band existed. I've looked it up. I've heard a couple tracks that they produced, was never, were never distributed or never went anywhere. And I thought, well, this has got to be the kid or the grandkid of maybe somebody in that band. So I said, oh, Jackson Street Off Ramp. Do you know anybody who was in that band? He said, oh, yes, my uncle. And we started talking, and he gave me a $5 tip. And, not to be mercenary, but, well, I'm mercenary, right? I want to engage people. For one thing, I want to help brighten their day, but on the other hand, I also like to make tip money. And those are not mutually exclusive, and I don't think it's a fraud to say that you're doing something, you're engaging people to try to make a living. But the thing is, there are so many instances where people feel very lonely. Oh yeah, they'll walk past you on the sidewalk and they'll ignore you. Some of them will. But sometimes, if you can spot something about them where you can hook it into a conversation. There was a woman who came up to me, in fact, yesterday, and she was approaching right for me, and she reached in to get $1 to drop in my tip hat. Well, I said, the way you're looking at me, you must be a musician. I said, no, kind of, I play bass. And I played a little bit of fiddle, and I said, well, I have too. And we started talking, must have talked for almost an hour. I found out that her mother was having some problems, was in the hospital nearby. Well, another woman came by, and so the three of us were talking. And while we were talking, people kept coming by and kept dropping tip money in my hat. So just in the span of 45 minutes to an hour, I must have made about $17, $18 in tips that had nothing to do with my playing the music. But we were engaged, and other people around us were happy that we were talking. And I guess it helped brighten their day too. So I think if there's a lesson to be learned from any of this, it's that it's important to engage customers. That's why I suggest that a good technique, at least one that's worked for me, is if I am playing and somebody expresses interest, I stop. I stop and I talk with them. And it's not only generates good tips, but it generates good feelings. I have had a lot of money in my life. At one point, I made $200,000 a year as a software developer until the company got taken over, and the first two people they got rid of were the CEO and me, because I was the second highest paid. Well, while I had money in those days, I'm having joy now. I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I hope you do too. And it should be possible to be able to make a living doing this. And I'm barely making a living, but I am actually managing to day to day to make things go. And that's something that I wish that you'd be able to do as well, because we've got to up the level a bit and make buskers the important people that we are. Other things that I wear, occasionally I wear a vest. I have 3 or 4 different vests I wear. I'm wearing a t-shirt right now. Let's see if I can do it. It says one leg chuck and the hustle. Push it back up here. One Leg Chuck is a guy who's a street performer, a guitarist at Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. And one of the things he does, he sits in his van because it's difficult for him to walk. And he performs, and he also has these t-shirts for sale. And he sells a lot of t-shirts. And his music is not that great, but he engages people. And he is actually able to support himself. In fact, I think he drives about 30 or 40 miles to Fisherman's Wharf in order to perform. And people like him a lot. And people, even me, they buy the t-shirts. One thing that's really important is to develop a style. It's funny because if I wear a different hat, sometimes people don't recognize me. And I mean, look, I'm 6'5", 285 pounds. People should be able to recognize me, but they don't. It's people rely on little cues, the clothes you're wearing, whatever, maybe how you walk or what have you. And that's an important way of making connection is to try to develop a style. I can tell you it works for me. And if you're into helping to build your busking career, then maybe it's at least it's something worth considering, okay? Now, I'm not good at this stuff, but I think you've got a subscribe thing up there and comments or something down there. It's funny because I worked in radio and TV for 12 years, both as talent and engineering, and this is a very different animal for me to deal with this stuff. But I do appreciate the 22 people who are subscribed to my list. And I will produce a few of these. And hopefully you will get some knowledge out of them and some enjoyment. And maybe it will help your career. Thank you for watching.